it will never get better than this. Recently published report from the IMF shows us that we have progressed miles away from the initial starting point, and now many of us are not certain about it, right? What are they talking about in this research? It deals with abolishing the cash, and how they are going to do that. They're kind of looking at alternatives to replace them with digital tokens. Okay, so they intend to do that. So how are they going to implement that? They talk about fintech and how they can be implemented. Fintech world gives them this ability as they reduce the counterparty risk and the interest rate risk. Now that's for corporate treasurers. As we dig deeper into this particular publication, it shows us many factors and overall perspective which keeps us educated, and many of them are seriously important factors which are really aggressive contents. And this one they talk about the fintech, interoperability, unbacked crypto, because I'm highlighting that because there are many, considering gold will be used to back this one, blah blah blah, but they kind of have a different perspective. Then trapped capital, or the dormant capital. Then the settlement system, distributed ledger technology, swap markets. And guys, this will never get better than this. This report is a recent report just published last month, and this is so concentrated here on the next 10-15 years. This is gonna be implemented, and if you focus and concentrate on this article for next 15 minutes here and educate yourselves for this decade, it can make you one among the new 1% sooner than you think. Because seeing this, I can't say now that the 10K predictions which we are seeing are kind of fully invalid. We can't completely neglect that. A question asked and responded by the Bob Way, he also says something similar. There is no upper roof for XRP. So if predictions are coming out, that considering many different factors, you can't kind of neglect that. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. Like the content and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done yet. That supports the channel a lot and me as a creator. Now, looking at this particular one from Ripple Inside, it kind of shows us that Ripple is a buyer in the secondary market for XRP, and that's actually a cool thing because they're keeping a healthy, orderly XRP market. Now, considering that and jumping back into this PDF, now we have a lot of things to cover in this one. So we actually checked the abstract in the intro section. Now we are coming into the page number 4 here, and what is important here for us is they are considering about two aspects here, right? So the second one here was the mainly the payment latency effect, and then how they are intending to change this. So in their own words, the new boundary between publicly and privately provided payments system and the role of collateral may be changing. So if you are considering the collateral as gold, it may not be in that same way. It can be something different. And how they are going to do that? Fintech, the convergence of technologies including artificial intelligence and big data, distributed computing and cryptography. That's cool. Provided the internet and mobile access has led to a variety of applications in the financial industry. So they are not directly saying Ripple or XRP, but as we read, we get a lot of parameters which is kind of only there for XRP and Ripple, the company, who are working with IMF and these kind of institutions. Now, this paper is actually focusing on privacy and payment latency. Now, privacy area we'll have more to discuss about, but the payment latency, it is actually about the settlement speed, the trapped capital, and how the settlements are happening. And now in this one, what we have to understand is when they talk about digital assets or cryptocurrencies, they give you an example at first, like central bank digital currencies, and why they are looking at that, because we had Bitcoin. Now we kind of have to agree with this was the breakthrough technology, and it gave that kind of a room to build upon, right? Now when they are using this term here, what you have to understand is they are talking about a system which is kind of huge thing. Now in this page number 4, when you come to paragraph number 3, the technological and policy considerations have led to an important questions to blah blah blah, and why they are actually considering this one. The private systems that have the private systems that have proliferated or been proposed. Notably, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, they're not saying Bitcoin, they're saying like Bitcoin, which has the ability to operate as a fiat currency. So we actually saw some documents previously representing that XRP, the digital asset, has the ability to work as a fiat currency, or at least it was designed in such a manner. Just it does not actually go in the opposite way like our fiat currencies as of now, which kind of gets reduced from its original value. The purchasing power is going down every year, whereas for XRP, as it is being used and adopted, the value actually increases. So that's actually a cool thing to be considered. Now, when they actually talk about these systems like Bitcoin, they consider, many may directly jump into stablecoins. So considering payments as a platform, they talk about stable coins first. And then when they are talking about stable coins, say in the page number 4 and the page number 5, they talk about very different aspects of that one. It may not be something which you are considering right now, but this is what the regulators and banks are considering. So when they talk about that, do keep in mind they're talking about, the reserve management. When you are providing a stable coin, you need to hold that much reserve. And if you're not holding that much reserve, if you're going into fractional reserve management, there are a lot of different things to consider. And that kind of gives a lot of drawbacks as well, as they talk through this system of stable coin and how it varies for one circumstance to another. And they actually come and conclude for that like this. Historically, when governments and banking regulators were confronted with these sorts of questions, they did not leave the decisions up to the bank, right? So in that same manner, regulators are going to come in and step in for that one. And then they talk about unbacked cryptocurrency, right? An unbacked cryptocurrency does not face the same problem. So whatever they are discussing here based on the stablecoin, now yes, stablecoin has its own merits, but they are also highlighting the disadvantages of using such a thing for a payment system. And here they highlight an unbacked cryptocurrency does not face the same problem. Like a fiat currency, it gives no guarantee of redemption in any medium other than itself. So now it comes to the question, like some of you were actually asking, say, what if the dollar is being devalued and the price reaches 10k? That doesn't actually matter. It will be something like $10 in actual value or $100 in actual value per XRP, right? But things will be changed if the currency which you are using for the transaction is entirely different. Say if it is a cryptocurrency, unbacked cryptocurrency, which is providing you all these factors stated above, created from a fintech, that kinds of give us an interesting area. Now, when they talk about the rest of the things, they go through Libra and how they intend to do these things, and it's not yet here, and it is kind of, they are looking forward to that. Now, when we actually move into page number 6 and the paragraph number 2, these proposals are for the most part are still in preliminary stages. We have to agree that, and the details and the motivations vary greatly, right? From one organization to another, these technologies are different. But what we have to look is the corporations or the technology giants, when coming out to do such a project, their intentions are different. They are taking the business away from the banks. Okay, now in these documents, what we have to understand is they are kind of concentrating mainly on how central banks and commercial banks, the existing banking system, can be upgraded, or they can disrupt themselves to sustain and stay relevant in the coming decades. Now, however, some of the proposals for CBDC envisage it not primarily as an electronic object directly held by the end user, but as a technology around which private entities can build payment applications that become interoperable through the use of common medium of exchange. Now read that again and again, buddy, because we do not want to miss this one. This is kind of one of the important sentences in this particular document. Again, some of the proposals for CBDC envisage it not primarily as an electronic object directly held by the end user, so it's not a retail central bank digital currency, so that's cool, but as a technology around which private entities can build payment applications that become interoperable. So that's the infrastructure which we are talking about, right? Ripple is creating an infrastructure, making new organizations or companies come in, create that network effects, and as we know, the company is actually successful in doing that. We had kind of announced around 350 partners. Now, automatically, that is increasing day by day. By the announcement of Libra, we know that a lot of banks are working with them. Now, what we have to understand is when they talk about this, they also talk about traditional and fintech. So that doesn't mean that it's only banks, right? We also know that if banks are getting the help from a technology company like Ripple, the fintech, other fintechs who are kind of competing with banks without this technology won't be having the same level playing field, right? So in order to compete, now this particular infrastructure is giving them the ability to play on a level field. Now, continuing. Through the use of a common medium of exchange, so it should be interoperable and using a common medium of exchange. So if you consider IntelliJ protocol, you have all of these there, because it's a common medium of exchange denominated in existing units of account. Wow. So that kind of doesn't actually say it's a Ripple, it's ILP, it's XRP, but those who read this and those who have the correct understanding of whatever documents we have went through in last 3-4 months, high level corporate government level documents, supranational organization level documents, research publications, all suggest us to this side, and that's not something small. Now, when we actually move through, say, page number 6 to page number 9, they talk about the payment latency itself, the settlement procedure, how the current system is working. Currently, we already know that, right? The message goes through, then the settlement of that take place afterwards, and there is a lot of tied capital inside. Now they actually talk about how we can settle that instantaneously. So that comes to an area like it has to be changed. They use like this. However, status quo payment system incentivize the opposite. What we need here is a real-time settlement. But now, based on the current infrastructure, it's not happening. Specifically, the company's bank can only assume a finite amount of credit exposure to the company. So the bank allocates this credit budget to the highest margin products such as bridge financing for mergers, acquisition, leverage loans, all those kind of things. The last thing its bank want to do is finance the company's payment latency, which is a very low margin business, and that is the reason why banks doesn't give much interest in increasing the correspondent banking system, taking out that trapped capital, pushing in more and all, right? Consequently, the bank requires the company to finance its own payment latency by trapping cash in its myriad bank accounts around the world in so-called comfort deposits, or what we can consider it as nostro vostro accounts. It's around the world, they're trapping their cash. They don't actually need to do that when they move into a real-time gross settlement area. Now, when we come into this part and when they kind of conclude it, they kind of highlight the solution for these are kind of accurate ledgers via DLT will bring transparency. Now, if you actually think about this entire document, they're talking about DLT for what? Majority of things like foreign exchange swap markets. So that is a huge market, and how that affects, that is from one central bank to another central bank, say from USD to Euro. That's just an example, and we previously went through the swap markets, and that's actually a huge market. It can be considered like the repo market and the shadow market, which we as a retail guys or common man doesn't actually understand, but that is something where the payments actually happen from one currency to another cross border, which is the target market of Ripple. Now, combining all these points which we read from this document, if we actually go through that, that is kind of something huge which we have to understand, right? They really talked about the fintechs creating that interoperability, making exchange of medium of exchange on a same aspect, right? They're not talking about something working on a different ledgers. They're talking about something which works on same ledger. It's not actually moving from one to another, right? They are considering this as Ripple, the company, intends to create that one. So that is where we have to keep an eye. As I told initially, this is really important. In the page number 6, if you want to read, come through here and go into the paragraph number 2 and 3. That gives us a lot of insights, and they cite this document. If you go there, that kind of gives you the background knowledge if you already haven't listened to many of our videos in last 2-3 weeks or at least 1-2 months, in which we came through many of these documents, right? Again, they talk about an electronic currency, electronic system which creates that infrastructure for private entities from which they can actually build their own applications, and that will be interoperable through the use of a common medium denominated in existing unit of account. That kind of outlines or outstands all different thing which we had talked before here, Libra, stable coin and all. And when they started, if you remember, they started talking it like Bitcoin, something which acts like Bitcoin, a cryptocurrency, designed to operate as a fiat currency. Now what else you actually need to understand where we are heading? And these kind of things, along with the predictions for 10K, it's not something which we can kind of just close our eyes and say, no, that's not going to happen. It may happen. We don't know what's actually going to happen. If the entire world is going to go into digitized and tokenized world, we can neglect that. Now, moving through some of the recent updates, when we see documents from IMF, which is being published, July 2020, which is recently a new article, and then we see these kind of stuff, it's so much bullish, because this particular individual, this expert, actually came in from a Federal Reserve previously into Ripple, the company. That was cool. Working here for 4.5 years and then coming into Ripple, spending 2.5 years, and then jumping into IMF. So, for example, when you have expertise in this particular technology, you are there in the council of IMF, and then now Federal Reserve Board from 2020. So the impact of the ideology and the technologies presented by Ripple, the company, is being proliferated everywhere. It is kind of getting assimilated into every minds across the world who actually deal with these kind of things regarding the change. Now, something bullish to be considered here is in the report of Ripple itself. They show that in Q1 it was just $1.75 million. But in Q2, it's 32.55. That is a huge difference in institutional sales. So that has changed enormously. There is no more word to say that, because if you consider from change from 1.75 to 32.55, the requirement or the demand for digital asset has increased enormously. Now, when we actually compare these with all the fundamental changes happening around us in the world related to central bank digital currency, blockchain, and the companies which are partnered with Ripple itself, we will understand that everything is changing. If we agree that or not is not the question. That's actually happening, and usually the experts in the financial investing world says follow the money, not what we say. Like, say, we previously went through a video of Tika Tiwari in which he explains how JP Morgan Stanley and others kind of talk down a particular asset while they are buying it. So that's kind of a market manipulation, right? In the same way, you don't have to look at what they are doing. Instead, go find these documents, then read through it, and you understand where the money is actually moving. When you see they actually bought $32.55 million worth of that, and you can see funding is going into institutions like these, this particular area is expanding. This industry, the payments industry, is expanding so much. Considering all of this, if you actually follow me on Twitter, there's a lot of more updates. I actually wanted to include everything in this one, but that would take a lot of time. So I will just suggest you can actually come into my Twitter account. You can actually see a lot of different articles suggesting how this is improving. Bitcoin getting attention from Wall Street Journal, that's the title. But if you look at that, you see altcoin Ether having more than that of a Bitcoin. The return on your investment, it went up much more than that. So once XRP start to pull, it will be in these kind of areas. And as you move down, you can see a lot of different updates. Like, say, Kevin actually put this out. Ripple and R3 team up with 12 banks to trial XRP for cross-border payments. So what did we actually talk here? It provides you an infrastructure on which everyone can come on. They will board in an interoperable system using interoperable digital asset, meaning exchange of value denominated in same unit of account. So this is something which we have to understand. When we see one thing there and automatically others correlating, it's kind of in the same storyline. It's kind of a movie which is being planned from way behind. Now, yes, financial industry, it takes time, it's slow, but these kind of updates, when you see the fundamentals getting stronger and stronger again and again, and others coming out and stating from these kind of huge institutions saying, now we are now looking at something, to build green, so we don't need energy eating proof of work kind of thing. So that is much better, right? It won't get much better than that. And then we look at the technical. This is just previous chart and current chart, previous cycle and current cycle, it took like 1314 days in the full cycle, and here we are around 1242 days. So if you actually do the math, you'll take around October 18, 19. By that time we will reach 1314 days. But as of now, it doesn't actually look like it's going to take that 2 months, 3 months more to reach that particular area. If we zoom in and look at this particular area, when we are going to the upside, that too exponentially, you can see that the same happened here. We went through the moving averages and continued that move. If you look at the MACD zooming in and the RSI as well, combining them, you'll understand what I'm talking is not nonsense. You can see we came to the upside slowly. I agree, but at one particular moment it just got boom, it just went to the upside. So if you look at the same on the MACD and RSI, moving average and the price, it kind of more than rhymes, we can say even repeats itself, but there are some pattern difference, so we can't say it's actually a repeat 100%, but there are difference. Now keeping in mind that in the monthly chart we haven't closed yet, and if we manage to close this above the 50-day moving average, or at least in green, and open the next candle that side, we are going to get a huge bullish sign here in the MACD crossing to the upside, and the volume to the upside. That's going to be massive. Now if you are looking to trade this market, I won't suggest that, because the market will be too much of volatility when you are in a bull market. If you don't know what you're doing, you may actually lose your capital, because this is a risky market when the volatility comes back, but you can actually make profit without volatility. Now consider we actually previously went around 0.34, right? Then the next target should be 0.5, after which the next target should be here around 0.69, 0.7. So expect the price to move high. If it is going to the upside, we can actually look at a market of 0.7. Now if we just delete all these and check, say, the long positions, if you are long from here around 0.16, don't think that everyone got this low and managed to reduce their average till there. We assume, say, let's assume this area, still you're gonna get around 437% of profit. Wow, that's the risk reward ratio, considering one, and managing your risk properly, another thing, and that is coming in our way. If you guys saw value in the content, do support the channel, hit that like button please. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.